Vincenzo's Gold Crypto Investing, this April the 18th, 2025 daily cryptocurrency and XRP gold and silver blockchain technology video from just north of downtown Detroit inside the mobile Vincenzo compound under rainy, seasonably nice conditions of 58 degrees, Jay. And if we get right on into this Bitcoin price, we ask you to bell notification, become members of Jabroni Killer for that truth, trust, education, and information, and the first mover and the value in the crypto sphere. We're still in the daily time frame. You can see we almost had our golden bearish cross where the 50 almost got below the long-term moving average of the 200. We had our bearish cross several weeks ago, more than a month ago now, in early to mid-March. And now we've had our recent pump off that $74,000 critical support and resistance level. As we do know, we're in this head and shoulders topping out reversal pattern. At least we believe we are. And we've been following it as such for about 2.5 months. And we've had another recent pump, but the volume is continuing to decline. And it's just this normal pump in this range. And I think eventually it's trading back down to the $74,000 level. And I think in the longer term, the next 2 to 3, 4 weeks, 2 months, I think it's going to go to 74,000 and break that 74. And I do think we're going down to $58,000. I know it's very unpopular. Some more of the mainstream are starting to catch on now, just like the mainstream and the social media sphere often do start to catch on late, but they do catch on. But we're the first mover advantage because we get it early. I still believe we're going to go down there at that neckline because we're in this head and shoulders. I believe and any kind of pump that it tries to keep sustaining right now, the highest you're going to get are more than likely these overhead falling moving averages at the 100-day moving average and the 87,000 and the highest max potential of 90,000 and change up here. That's as high as I think you would get, but I think we're going to be trading in between that 74,000 and the 50-day moving average here over the next over this weekend. It's going to get volatile and choppy near these moving averages because I think eventually we do. Hey, that shit came, but fucking they didn't have the drill bit, so they're bringing it here right now. Yeah, exactly. Like, why would you ship it in 2 separate? Oh, the guy was gone already. Well, what good fucking does that do? They're part of the same order, you know? So I think that's where we're going to be playing at this weekend. I think it's going to get volatile and choppy, but I think eventually we end out at $74,000. But again, just like last weekend when we put the weekend pump advisory and then we traded sideways this week, the max I think you'd get up to in Bitcoin is right up there around that falling 100-day moving average in the daily time frame and that overhead resistance level at 90,000 and change, right? So that's what's going on in the Bitcoin price. The XLM price, it's the same thing as where we were last weekend. We're below this 25.5-cent horizontal right to left resistance level that we're trying to flip it and confirm it as being resistance now because we were going to come down to this 18.5 cents. We wicked down just above that 18.5 cents. And again, the first mover advantage at Vincenzo's Jabroni Killers, video description of the pinned comment. We diagnosed and sniffed this out way back in that circle. And then now the rest of the mainstream caught on to you guys in here after it was too late. The first mover advantage that we caught back there was already over. And then we've laid out this framework for the last 2 months that we're coming to 18 cents, followed by a slight rally. Then we were going to get rejected by having a golden bearish cross, which you can see we've had now in the XRP or the XLM, where the 50-day is below the 200-day and the 100-day is just on top of the 200-day, but eventually that 100-day now is going to cross the 200-day, and then you're going to have red, blue, green, short bottom, longest term 200 green on top, and that's going to force and drive this down, I think, to 14.5 cents here in the next month or two, and I think that's where we're going to go, followed by a potential huge rally in red there after we hit a major supply zone of 14.5 cents. But this is just one of the reasons and the value of why you need to be members of Jabroni Killers, why you need to share this channel, support the message, and get our information out, because we give you the first mover advantage. We lay it into you a super simple, easy way to trade this market. and to get your information right. And if we look at, and that's the value there in the first mover, identifying things early, just like we showed you there in the Bitcoin, just like we showed you there in the XLM in our future, where we could have a major rally from, right? We had this head and shoulders topping out reversal pattern. Vincenzo's first mover advantage right there in that purple circle. We identified this back in early to mid-January. We drew out in yellow this head and shoulders pattern, identified in purple the neckline. Now we'll take that and just make it a little less. We still don't want to buy or sell or do anything that you have to offer me in the corner right there. Get out of there. We identified this neckline in purple. And then we told you the last several weeks, even when you had this fake manipulated orchestrated pump on that Sunday morning with the Trump news about the crypto reserve that came out, that was just strategically placed to try to pump the price and maximize it off of a technical level that we talked about that Thursday and Friday here, that we could have a weekend pump, and we were forecasting it to come to the 255, but it went up 42% in an hour because they released that news at a strategic time to maximize the pump. But we told you don't get faked out. We told you don't get fleeced, don't get heisted, don't get preyed upon, and don't get played upon. And we told you the price was going to roll over on itself, and it was going to come back to the neckline, and it was eventually going to break the neckline and come down to the 200-day moving average. And you can watch those videos from that morning. I think it was the first Sunday of March when that pump happened. Just look at the date. And we did come back down to the 200. We wicked below it, got bought back up like we thought we would, running into the neckline now. And then we said on Sunday when it was coming up to here for the weekend pump, the max potential you would get would be the overhead moving averages at the 100-day moving average. Then the price would get stagnated and have to retest the neckline. And if it didn't bounce and hold it, it would slither and eventually break below it and then start to trade below it and then get rejected in a classic hook nose bearish reversal pattern. And quote, before you know it, you're going to be at a double bottom of that wick at about $1.61, right? And we did that for 2 or 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, and the Wednesday. We slithered down sideways just off or above the neckline. And then now the last day and a half, we've slipped below it now, and we're waiting for the next drop point to the 200-day moving average, where you could see a slight bounce. And then if we don't get any buyers to come in, it's going to find its way back down to that $1.61 major double bottom, where then you could have another maybe pump up and retest to the neckline before you eventually, I believe, come down to the $1.29. And that's the first mover advantage, because now people are seeing it. Yeah, it's easy to see it when you're at $1.61 on a wick, or you're sitting at $1.80, $1.90. But the first mover got you that up here when we were at $3.20, $3.30, $3.15 or 10 cents, just after that 340 local peak. We drew out this and let you know we were going to have the bearish cross. We were going to have the golden bearish cross. We were going to have a major downside correction. And you can see we've gotten very, very close. But the mainstream and the rest of these fleecers and hustlers and heisters didn't really start talking about that until we got in here, late February, early March. But by then the price was already down from $3.30, $3.40, all the way down to $1.75 to $2.30 by the time they realized what was going on. The first mover advantage was gone. Just like we're giving you the first mover advantage after we hit that technical neckline, we might build a rounding bottom for a week or two or a month or so, and then have a ferocious rally back up into that $3.40 range like we're showing you there. That's why you need to become members of Jabroni Killers. That's why you need to follow the movement. That's why you need to help me continue to grow this community that we have going down here. Changing the narrative to truth, trust, education, and information, and to become members of Jabroni Killers. It's as easy as hitting that join button, $3.99 a month, video description, and or the pinned comments. You are the most powerful voice, the most powerful aggregate, and the most powerful thing for this channel is you, the follower, the listener, and the channel members. Peace and love. Direct Eyebrow. Jay.